Tonight we will cover the movement sweeping the nation known as the V for Victory campaign, or also known as the answer to 1984's 1776 campaign. Thomas Jefferson said, "To secure our unalienable rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it." You are the answer. Do you believe that the situation is hopeless? Many people do not believe the problems facing us are serious. Some people wake up and give up in the same week. This is, of course, just exactly what the global elite and those within our own government want you to do. The conspiracy of this cabal can be defeated. The global elite and those within our own government are not omnipotent. It is true that they control important parts of the federal government, high finance and the mass media. But they do not control everything, or the vice would already have been closed. We should say the conspiracy controls everything but you. You are their Achilles heel, you are the resistance. If you are willing to fight the info war, quitters never win and winners never quit. We need millions of Americans who are not quitters, but, moreover, who have the will to fight the info war and win. Of course, you can't up the conspiracy head-on trying to fight it on its home grounds. But the global elite and those within our own government are vulnerable to an end run. You, and thousands of others, like you, can make an end run, if you want to. The timing for an end run has never been better. By now a lot of Americans have concluded that there is little difference between the leadership of the two major parties. More and more people are beginning to realize that there is a tiny clique of conspirators at the top, which controls both the Democrat and Republican parties. The one thing these conspirators cannot survive is exposure. The global elite and those within our own government are successful only because so few of their victims know what is being planned and how the global elite and those within our own government are carrying out those plans. Conspiracies can operate only in the dark. They cannot stand the truthful light of day. Once any sizable minority of the American people becomes aware of the conspiracy and what it is up to, the many decades of patient planning and work by the global elite and those within our own government can be destroyed in an amazingly short period of time. This job is largely a matter of getting others to realize that they have been conned and lied to, and are continuing to be conned and lied to. You must become the local arm of the world's largest floating info warrior. But before you can go to work pointing out these conspiratorial facts to others, you must know the facts yourself. The concept of an army of individuals which is dedicated to exposing the conspiracy frightens the global elite and those within our own government, because it works outside the channels which they control. You now have a tent everyone can get into with the V for Victory and the answer to 1984's 1776 campaign. This info war must be based on principles, or it has no justification for existence. It brings those who believe in a constitutional republic and the free enterprise system into the same tent. It is only logical that the global elite and those within our own government will try to apply the coup de grace against America. Americans must break the global elite and those within our own government that control their respective parties. The CFR types and their flunkies and social climbing opportunist supporters must be identified and shown the door. It is up to you to put the politicians on the spot and make the CFR insiders a campaign issue. This can be accomplished easily by creating the base of thinking that will oppose their positions, communism or socialism. The elite must be forced together into one party. The conspiracy doesn't want a resultant clear distinction between party ideologies. The global elite and those within our own government want the issues between the parties to be cloudy and gray, centering on personalities, not principles. That is the way they want it. The issue, very simply, is the enslavement of you and your children. Just because many of these so-called Americans are theoretically Americans, don't think they will spare this country the terror they have brought to 30 other countries through their hired thugs. To the global elite and those within our own government, the world is their country and their only loyalty is to themselves and their fellow conspirators. Being an American means no more to them than being an honorary citizen of Bali would mean to you. It has not bothered their consciences one iota that millions of your fellow human beings have been murdered, including 50,000 plus of your own sons and daughters in Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan. In order to solidify their power in the United States, they will need to do here the same thing they have done in other countries. They will establish and maintain their dictatorship through stark terror or the threat of terror. The terror does not end with the complete takeover of the republic either. Rather, then terror just begins. For total All-encompassing terror is an absolute necessity to keep a dictatorship in power. 14 signposts to slavery. Number 1. Restrictions on taking money out of the country and on the establishment or retention of a foreign bank account by an American citizen. Number 2. Abolition of private ownership of handguns. Number 3. Detention of individuals without judicial process. Number 4. Requirements that private financial transactions be keyed to social security numbers or other government identification, so that government records of these transactions can be kept and fed into a computer. Number 5. Use of compulsory education laws to forbid attendance at presently existing private schools. Number 6. Compulsory non-military service. Number 7. Compulsory psychological treatment for non-government workers or public school children. Number 8. An official declaration that libertarian organizations are subversive and subsequent legal action taken to suppress them. Number 9. Laws limiting the number of people allowed to meet in a private home. Number 10. Any significant change in passport regulations to make passports more difficult to obtain or use. Number 11. Wage and price controls, especially in a non-wartime situation. Number 12. Any kind of compulsory registration with the government of where individuals work. Number 13. Any attempt to restrict freedom of movement within the United States. Number 14. Any attempt to make a new major law by executive decree, that is, actually put into effect, not merely authorized as by existing executive orders. How many can you count that are in effect now? What? It can't happen here. You are in this fight or info war, whether you want to be or not. Unless you are considered an elite insider, you will be a victim. Even if you think you are an insider, can you be sure enough to bet you and your family's burial lives on it? Whether you are a multimillionaire or a pauper, you have an enormous amount at stake. The global elite and those within our own government are counting on your being too preoccupied with your own problems or too lazy to fight back, while the chains of slavery are being fastened on you. They are counting on their mass media to calm you, frighten you, or ridicule you out of saving your freedom, and, most of all, they are counting on your thinking you can escape by not taking part in opposing their takeover. The choice is yours. If you will not fight for right, when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight, when your victory will be sure, and not too costly, you may come to the moment, when you will have to fight with all the odds against you, and only a precarious chance of survival. Because we have ignored warning after warning, we are now at that place in history. Unless you do your part now, you will face a further choice, also described by Winston Churchill. He said, there may be even a worse fate. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory, because it is better to perish than live as slaves. What will you do if you are unwilling to get involved because you feel it may be bad for business or may jeopardize your social respectability? Just look into the eyes of your children and tell them that making a buck and climbing the social ladder are more important to you than they are. Or join the V for Victory and the answer to 1984's 1776 info war with thousands of others. Let's end run the conspiracy in the global elite and those within our own government. Vive la resistance. And to the global elite.